Councilor Chance.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everybody who showed up from the Finance Committee and Planning Board. It's very much appreciated. There's a lot of information I got. I took a whole page of notes. Wasn't necessarily planning on doing that. The Bates Mills, my aunts and uncles work there. My grandparents lived when they moved to Lewiston, right around the corner on Lincoln Street Alley. That economic engine drove Lewiston through those decades. And as someone who appreciates the history and the old buildings in this town, today we're looking at vision. Where is Lewiston going as it moves forward? Ms. Gudis noted that Lewiston's seen as the armpit, and I believe the YMCA and CMMC are very good entities to have in Lewiston and Auburn, but Bates Mill number 5 was not built to be looked at. It was surrounded by buildings. It was a industrial production building inserted into a neighborhood with other buildings surrounding it. It is an onion in that regard, and putting deodorant on it might make it smell good for a while, but in the end of the day, it's still an onion. And that's what we're looking at. What are we doing with this building and why? And what are we holding on to? I look at this as a vision to move Lewiston forward and not try to save an element from its past that is long expired. Speaking of health care, in Auburn, recently St. Mary's has an urgent care by the mall. It's extremely valuable. It's an asset to that area, in this area. They also opened up an IHOP. Both are valued to a lot of people, but if you drive by that St. Mary's urgent care and you need them, you're going to be thankful that they're there. But you drive by and look at the economic dynamo that it is compared to IHOP. There's no comparison. IHOP is huge. Even if you don't particularly like them, there's a lot of people that do, and that one small, tiny establishment is a whirlwind of economic activity, whereas a block away you have a very vital entity that is pretty much quiet. It's useful and it's necessary and it serves the public's needs, but what is it doing for the vitality of that whole area? You look at an IHOP or similar type of business, there's no comparison. That is the type of economic activity, I believe, not necessarily IHOP, that Lewiston needs downtown. So I'm looking at this as a vision. What do we want as the showpiece of Lewiston? And the council did vote, and I accept that. My comments tonight, based on what I've heard, I agree with Mr. Damon that the building is what it is. If we build new, or not, hopefully not we, but private sector, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge complex equivalent to the size of Bates number 5. But there's the opportunity there to put in economic dynamos in that crown jewel of Lewiston when you come across that bridge. So that is the vision that I have, and some may agree, some may disagree with that. I believe the amount of investment that would go into this compared to the return on that investment is a no-brainer. And the Riverfront Plan looked at this. There was a lot of people involved in that consortium over many months. They looked at keeping it, they looked at tearing it down, replacing it with a big building, replacing it with small buildings. At the end of the day, what they looked at is no different than what they have down the street today. And they did recommend the best use of that property, given the revitalization of downtown, was to tear it down and put in things that really are forward-thinking and bringing Lewiston forward into the next century. That's, in my opinion, and from my perspective, the compelling argument to tear this down. But we are in the situation we're in right now. The council made the decision. We're out kicking it out another year, and it has been, through my previous 2 years, into the term before that, we're looking on the 3rd or 4th year of this. Not all of it with Mr. Platts, but I do believe he has been involved in Bates number 5 for 10, 20 years at least, with Bates Mill LLC, the Mill 3, Mill 6, all the other mills. I would ask Ed, you mentioned that the structural work was done at some point to address the deficiencies in the building?
Yeah,
Do you know when that was?
structural repairs were made. 1994, there was a new roof system put in that basically added some metal under the bottom of the roof to deal with that problem. The flat roofs of the building were upgraded and repaired in 2001. Did some other roof repair because of some wind damage in 2006. About $100,000 of environmental cleanup work done. So there's been a whole series of things done between 1994 and today. Again, some of that, a good chunk of it, was done through federal grants, not out of local taxpayers' funds.
Thanks. I have read the Shelley report. There was 2 reports, I believe 1998 and 99 or 2000, 16 years ago. Up to that point, the building was maintained. It was heated. It was in use until very shortly around that period of time. There was at least one critical column in that report that was deemed critical, as in its failing. It was in the corner of the building, if I recall. That was in 1999, when the building was still heated and maintained. It's unfathomable for me to believe that in 16 years of a frozen heat and thaw cycle on an unprotected concrete building, that it would be pretty much about the same condition that it was back then. That's a concern going forward into this, of hidden costs that may not be known right now. And the potential for this to go far beyond $70 million is what concerns me when we're going into something, potentially a joint development agreement, with unknowns that may not be known today until they really get in there and start digging, so to speak. Again, those are the concerns I have. And I really do appreciate everybody here speaking on both sides of the issue, because I believe that's what Councilor LaJoy intended, and I think it's been healthy for everybody, and we still haven't heard from the public, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Carl, if you want to step up.
I'm ready for some pancakes. Is this on?
Progress has been made. I don't want to see an IHOP downtown.
I'm a man of few words. I enjoy pancakes. I don't want to see an IHOP downtown. Thank you.
You know, I mentioned IHOP, and I heard no less than 3 people come up here kind of chuckling under their breath and saying, I don't want an IHOP here. Think about what you're saying. And I didn't necessarily advocate for having an IHOP downtown, because that isn't what I want to see. But the example is a business dynamo, whether you like the business or not. I'm not particularly fond of them, but it is what it is. And if we can walk up here to the podium and say, we don't want to have that here, we want to have our favorite pet type of business. That's anti-business. That's a closed mind. And that isn't going to help our cause. We need to be open to all types of businesses, big and small, locally owned and otherwise, because it does take local, but it's going to take a lot more than that to bring this city back. And for us to walk up here and say, we don't want that type of business here. We want our type of business, or the next person wants their type of business. It's very selective. And keep in mind what you're saying when you trumpet business, but then you qualify it. And I've been hearing this for years, and I believe it's one of the biggest problems we have in this town. We'll scream on the top of the highest hill about how we want business, but when it's the other person's favorite business, oh no, we don't want that. That is inhibiting people from looking at Lewiston seriously. You look at Auburn, I don't see that happening over there. And there's a big difference between Auburn and Lewiston right now, specifically because of that attitude. So when I hear the mayor speak like that, partly I agree with him. The other part, we're not looking at the whole picture. This is an example where we have an opportunity. And if we sit there and, in all humor, say, well, I don't want to see that business, you're saying you don't want to see business, because we need business in Lewiston, especially downtown. And it has to be the type of business that's going to generate activity. And that is what I'm looking at when I look at this project.